Hello. Okay. Yeah, so as much as I would like to record this on through video, I will just make a transcript instead. So basically, I wanted to just kind of point out that a lot of people cannot handle the dark. We have to understand what the dark is, first of all. Okay, the dark is not light. It is a form of light, but it is not bright light. And that's just kind of in a metaphorical sense. When I talk about the dark, and how people cannot handle it, some people, for the dark is the truth, right? So some people cannot handle the truth because the truth is dark for them. In other cases, some people who are too much into the light cannot handle the truth about what is dark, what is. They cannot accept what is, right? So darkness is very subject. You know, when they talked about, I like to reference the Bible because it's very bipolar, right? There's like this clear distinction between, dark and light, right? And even the way that it is interpreted is incorrect, but we can still use that interpretation to help us understand what is meant by dark and light. So dark and light, right? There's like this separation between heaven and hell, light and dark, right? They're not places. Neither are they mindsets either. There's a much deeper understanding of it, and the translations are very, very subject. So, like, what I'm talking about here is that when people talk about darkness and heaven or lightness, angels, it's really not anything to do with the outside world. It's all to do with yourself. And so whenever we are reading the Bible, reading scripture, we should actually be focusing on how it relates to us. Churches are, in my opinion, the cause for why there's a lot of confusion surrounding what is light and what is dark, because someone else is reading you a story. Think of it like a bedtime story. A parent is reading you a story, right? But instead they're reading you a story to a mass of other people, and they're reading it based on their own interpretation, based on who they are. So do you see what I'm saying here? You see what I'm kind of getting at? A priest or priestess, whatever, they read scripture, and how they interpret it is only going to be how they interpret themselves. What is true to be dark for themselves and what is true to be light for themselves has nothing to do with how you should be interpreting it. Because their interpretation of Christ and darkness and all that stuff is not the same for you. And so now that kind of brings and broadens the entire point of authenticity, because this is where actually it comes in at. Authenticity is all to do with your truth, your darkness, how it relates to you as your own self, not other people, because other people's interpretations, their walk of life, their is going to be different. And so their innate authenticity is going to look different as well. And now I'm saying this from a perspective of someone who does not care to be relatable. I'm not here to be relatable. And as a matter of fact, everything I do is not relatable. A lot of people do not relate to me. And one of the questions that I have for people who feel like they need to be relatable or liked by other people is, how can you learn? Like my channel, the things I talk about, they don't get a lot of viewership. And I'm not doing that for that. But what I am kind of testing out is how people can learn to not relate, but to connect with outside of what's called relatability? How can they connect outside of something that looks like a representation of themselves? How can they connect without a symbol that looks like something they're familiar with? Is this unfamiliarity? Is this taking a chance on the unknown? Sure, if you're scared of talking to people, sure, that could look like fear. If you're afraid of learning outside of who you are, that could look like fear. That could look like darkness for you, sure. But that's kind of like my whole thing there. Now, another thing I want to turn my attention to is Hollywood. Okay, so when we talk about mindsets, right, and how people cannot handle the dark, we're kind of going to be focused on mentalities that people get themselves into. A dark mentality, a dark psychology. And we're also going to get a little bit more, it's going to touch on, chakras and alignment. Okay. As it comes to Hollywood and, the entire industry, we all are pretty much aware that what goes on is basically things that they think should be in the dark. And it's very silly because they're hiding things that they're not dark. They confuse, I'm not going to say confuse. I'm not going to use those words. They believe that hiding and secrecy is of the dark. They believe that secrecy and lies is power of the dark. And to believe that is actually just wrong. It's actually just wrong. Because again, we just established that what's dark is not necessarily what's hidden. What's dark is subject to you. So if you are hiding, for example, there are many men in male species in the Hollywood industry that hide the fact that they have gay relations, homosexual relationships. That's not dark. That's that's dark for you because that is something that you are hiding within yourself. You're hiding that you enjoy homosexuality. You are homosexual to some degree, right? And that is a truth. That is darkness, right? The truth is dark for them. The truth is the exposure. The truth is the fact that the darkness is in the truth of the fact that other people can see them as homosexual, right? When they say taint your image, it literally just means bringing that darkness and for everyone to know about. It's only dark to you because you don't accept yourself in that way, and you're not able to be authentic. So is that really dark? Is that really power? No, it's not. It's just repression of oneself, right? That's just suppressing. That's someone suppressing who they are entirely. And then, again, that's fear. Okay. Now, I want to build on this by really understanding that when we talk about that whole kind of sphere and how it turns into something that looks sinister, I'm not actually referring to the Bible sinister, but you guys get the idea. Sinister, in my definition, is low vibrational. Basically, where it's like this it's like two things are occurring at once, where one person likes it because they like it, but they also like it because they believe that they shouldn't be doing it. So those two things existing at once is what is low vibration. Because you haven't freed yourself of it. You've enslaved yourself behind the idea that being yourself is wrong in some sort of way, right? And so And when I say you, I mean like those people. And so when I said, I also, here is also prevalent that that some people just can't handle the dark. The dark is their authenticity, the things that they suppress around themselves. And what I'm getting at there is the reason that's the whole reason why it's low vibrational. It's low vibrational because they've put themselves into a mindset where they now believe that being gay is something that's wrong, something that they can't express openly, freely, and they've trapped their own selves. They've literally they've set themselves up. They are in opposition to their own self because they literally believe that being homosexual is wrong, and yet their body is telling them that they like it and they enjoy it, and then they set themselves up further by literally suppressing it, doing it in the dark, behind closed doors, and then believing that this is some sort of power, or this is some sort of like it's that's what makes it so low vibrational. Low vibrational is literally things that you cannot pull out of yourself to just accept. You can't just let me just go ahead and just say it. Let me just go ahead and just do it. Right? Let me just be that. It takes a lot more strength to be authentic. It really does. It's so much more safer. Safety requires weakness. Safety requires comfort. Authenticity is discomfort. So now I want to broaden that perspective and then kind of turn it into this other parallel. When I say broaden, I mean like we're looking at the macro economy now. Now we're not just looking at Hollywood. But now we're comparing that ideology to the masses of the people, of the citizens, of like the working class, we'll say, right? We compare the two. Now, here's how I like to do it. I do it very simply, black and white. So at the Hollywood level, at that, and in that stage, in that sphere, is what the people of the working class would probably, and they do, say that what they're doing is evil. Oh, Hollywood's evil. Hollywood is evil. Hollywood is all this and that. Why is that evil? That's not evil. What we are considering what's evil is the fact that they're just not being honest about who they are, really. They have to make up all these different hand signals and signs and, oh, we're a part of this type of group and shit. Like, just like, come on. Like, you guys are literally setting up traps for yourself. It's like, it's a whole world of booby traps. That doesn't make any sense. Right? And then there's people in the working class, right, society, there's groups inside this working class society. We have LGBT who already accept themselves, and yet the people in Hollywood do not associate with that. Like, there's like this gap, and so they hide it. And then we have the people of the LGBT community, where the people, like, another group above Hollywood, or I guess next to it, would be the government. It's political to have your sexual orientation anything other than what's called, straight, right? So now your sexual orientation is political, and because of that, there's a lot of people in this LGBT sphere who outcast themselves or feel outcasted. There's other people around them that like let them know, like, hey, you're not normal because of this. Okay, whatever, right? But then that's not always their mentality. Some of them are like, oh, damn, like, I'm really upset or whatever. They want to be accepted. Now, what Hollywood can do to the working class people who are like, I want to be accepted, that's how they can bring them in, right? They can look at these people below and say, I see something in you. Don't worry. I know how you feel, right? And I'm not, now when I'm saying Hollywood, I'm not saying this is what Hollywood's saying to working class people, but this is kind of like what's forming the predator and prey dynamic, where we have individuals who are like, I understand you, who will also suppress themselves, right? And they're older, and they see, this younger crowd who feels unaccepted by the people around them. And so they're like, hey, I know how you feel. I understand you. Like, they don't understand you like I do. It's that whole little thing. And so there's this like dynamic here where it seems complex. Even after saying it, it seems complex. But at the root of it is the fact that darkness is nothing more than subject to who one is. So if someone is hiding and suppressing something within themselves, then the truth will be their darkness. The truth will hurt them. And oftentimes people who are truth seekers sometimes, or people who are just very, I don't even say truth seekers. There are probably some, but really it's those who are like afraid of the dark. So people who are like, oh, it's only light, love and light, like those people, then their darkness is obviously going to be everything that they haven't accepted about the truth about the world, about everyone else, right? And then there's some people in between who, again, the people who suppress themselves will probably also somehow suppress other people who feel a certain type of way and walk around thinking that they're different, but they know behind closed doors they're doing something else. So again, darkness is just your suppression of who you are, literally. And it's always been that way. It's been this case of people hiding who they truly are, who they love, and who they choose to lay down with. They mix, and then they lust over, like the men, they lust over each other. They don't love each other. And for some reason, that's hard for them to admit, which is not even crazy to think about, because is that not exactly what happened in Greece? And is that in the United States, America, we have ties to Greece. We honor Greek gods. We honor Greece. So it only makes sense that some of these practices that the Greeks did are still enabled here in society today, even though they're not shown in the news and things of that nature. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's all it is. The race and the chase of time has been suppression of who one is, suppression of self, really. And that goes for all throughout history. Suppression has always been, you can't be yourself. It's always been, you can't be authentic, or because I don't know my authenticity. That's what it is. You can't be authentic because I don't know my authenticity. And you being authentic makes me look at myself differently, because I don't know how to be authentic. I don't know what it means to be authentic. So instead, you're the weird one. You're the outcasted one. And so that's all it is, truthfully. And that's all I like to say. It's like life doesn't have to be difficult like that, but for a long time it has been. It's been a long time coming where people can now be able to understand who they are, instead of having to suppress themselves, feel like other people are repressing them and all this other. I'm just gonna say it's just bullshit. It's bullshit to me. So yeah, this there's no ending with this one. This literally is what it is. Okay.